If you're like me, and you're one of those weird generational transition zoomers who technically belongs to Gen Z but identifies more with millennials, then your first exposure to Star Wars probably came in the form of the prequels and Legos. Star Wars is a beloved franchise that spanned generations and every medium imaginable. Of course, it all started with the original trilogy in the late 70s, but since then it's cultivated a massive fandom through spin-off shows, toys, clothing, accessories, and... Oh, hi there! If you couldn't tell, I love Star Wars. I'm no stranger to buying merch or little trinkets that I can put on display. I mean, I even have this! It's a popcorn bucket. And wait, look what it can do. While I enjoy accumulating silly knickknacks to put on my shelf, there is one thing I enjoy collecting more. And that thing is, of course, Star Wars video games. Star Wars video games have been around almost as long as the movies, with the first ever game being the Empire Strikes Back movie tie-in game for the Atari 2600 in 1983. And this game, I mean honestly, I've seen worse on the Atari. Since then, there have been dozens of Star Wars games. I don't even know what 90% of these are. However, buried in the chaos are some of the best games of all time. We've got Knights of the Old Republic, which is considered as one of the best classic RPGs, LEGO Star Wars, which kicked off the beloved Traveler's Tales era of LEGO games, and I personally think The Force Unleashed is an incredible action game. Here's a fun fact. Did you know that the LEGO Star Wars video game actually came out an entire month before Revenge of the Sith? So if you played this game on launch, well, congratulations, you just spoiled the entire ending. Anyways, we can't talk about Star Wars games without talking about my favorite game out of the entire Star Wars catalog. That game is none other than Star Wars Battlefront. Star Wars Battlefront is an incredible shooter set in a massive Star Wars themed sandbox. So incredible, in fact, that it spawned an entire series. I myself own Battlefront, Battlefront 2, Battlefront 2, Battlefront 2 2, 2 Battlefront 2s, 2 Battlefront 2 2s, and... While I do love the new Battlefront games, something about the classics just felt magical. So, despite the popularity of the classic Battlefront series, it really is unfortunate that we never received a third game. Or did we? You see, there were two Star Wars Battlefront titles released exclusively for handheld. This, and this, but like, worse. Star Wars Battlefront Elite Squadron and its predecessor Renegade Squadron were both released on the PSP, with the latter also releasing on the Nintendo DS. It's undeniable that the classic Battlefront 2 was a massive success, and the PSP port of that game sold exceptionally well. After that, a standalone handheld spin-off title was proposed, and Rebellion Developments was tasked with creating it due to their experience making PSP games. In 2007, 2 years after Battlefront 2, Renegade Squadron released to a mixed positive reception. Meanwhile, Battlefront 3 was quietly falling apart behind the scenes. Pandemic Studios, who developed the first two Battlefront games, were offered a contract to create the third title, but part of that contract was getting the game out within a year. Due to their ambitious vision and ongoing work on other projects, the deadline was just not possible, so they declined. LucasArts began shopping around for another developer to take over the project, eventually landing on Free Radical, who pitched a Battlefront game with fully connected ground and space combat within a single battle. Development on the game began, and for the first few years, things were looking great. The game was slated for release in 2008, and for a while it seemed like they were ahead of schedule. But as it began nearing release, everything started to go wrong. In January of 2008, 10 months before the internal deadline, Free Radical requested a delay from LucasArts. While it was granted, LucasArts was not too happy as many of their other projects were also experiencing delays. Shortly after, LucasArts went through a leadership change, and the company started issuing mass layoffs as part of a company-wide restructuring. Development continued, but as milestones kept getting missed due to the layoffs, LucasArts saw that the game would not be ready even by the delayed release date, so they shut down development and cut Free Radical loose. However, this wasn't the end of Battlefront 3. You see, while Free Radical was working on the home console version, Rebellion Developments was on standby to eventually handle the handheld port of the game. After the cancellation of the project, Rebellion was approached to continue it as long as they could complete it within a tight deadline. They were given the assets and started development. Once they finished the handheld version, they eventually decided that it would not be possible to complete the next-gen builds within their allotted time. So they canceled development and repackaged the PSP and Nintendo DS game as Star Wars Battlefront Elite Squadron. Elite Squadron was released in 2009 and was received marginally better than its predecessor. Many fans cite the game as being similar to Renegade Squadron but with more content, but I can't help but wonder, why wasn't this game received better? I mean, I own the game, but I've only ever played it once well over a decade ago. If this is the remnants of what Battlefront 3 was supposed to be, why does nobody really talk about it? Today, I'm revisiting Elite Squadron to find out if this was the Battlefront 3 we were promised, or just the husk of what could have been. I want to be clear that this video isn't just a review or a let's play. It's part narrated playthrough, part retrospective, and all about finding out what this game has to offer. We'll start with a condensed look at the campaign, then dive into the side modes and extra content. So, join me as we take a look back at what became of the cancelled Battlefront 3. We begin the campaign playing as X2, one of two clones who is created from the DNA of a Jedi. Our journey begins on Tatooine. We're thrown into a tutorial where our brother X1 guides us through the various game mechanics at a Republic training facility. Immediately as we gain control of our character, we run into our first major issue. Notice anything? How about now? Yeah, so if you recall, the PSP has only a single thumbstick on the left side, which means there is no thumbstick on the right for looking around and aiming in video games. This meant that developers had to get creative when it came to camera controls. With this game being a shooter with a lot of controls, they certainly got creative. The left thumbstick moves our character forward and backward and lets us look left and right, but if we want to strafe, we need to hold down the right trigger. This control scheme is extremely clunky and awkward, and as we'll see later, it causes a lot of issues. There are alternate control schemes in the options, but each one comes with their own limitations. I also may or may not have figured this out until after recording 90% of this video. We breeze through the tutorial, which basically just involves us shooting down some separatist surveillance drones, and oh shit, I guess that didn't matter because we're under attack anyways. Our first real mission sees the training facility under siege, and our goal is to defend it. After clearing out the hangar, we run to the nearby cantina where we grab a rocket launcher and blow up the advancing spider droids. Once they're turned to scraps, we hop on an anti-air gun to clear the airspace before hopping on to the ion cannon. If you remember, the original vision for Battlefront 3 included ground-to-space combat. And believe it or not, this game achieves that on a PSP. From the ground, we can use the ion cannon to take out the shield of the enemy command ship, which lets us fly into space and board it. Not only is this an incredible evolution of space battles from Battlefront 2, but it's insanely impressive that they got it to work on a handheld. Sure, there are still loading screens, but as we'll see later, this isn't just a scripted event. Every aspect of these battles are fully connected in real time. So you know what? Good job, Elite Squadron. We make our way through the capital ship when we get to the reactor, blowing it up and escaping before it collapses to successfully repel the attack. The battle rages on above the capital planet of Coruscant as a fleet of CIS ships initiate a full-scale invasion. We begin by flying a starfighter into the enemy ship and hijacking its orbital cannon to provide ground support. We fight our way back to the back of the ship where we take an escape pod down to the surface of the planet. Once we've joined our foot soldiers, we help advance the front line, clearing out the droids and advancing further into the city. As we progress, we rendezvous with Mace Windu, whose stiff, bald face commands us to blast away the rubble that's blocking the entrance to the building where General Grievous is thought to be occupying. So, we grab a fusion cutter and repair the nearby turret emplacement to destroy the rubble. Mace Windu joins us as we storm the building and engage in cumbersome melee combat against a group of Magna Guards. Oh right, I forgot to mention that this game has dedicated melee combat, and it's not just exclusive to Jedi. As a foot soldier, you can run around and hit things with a big pokey stick. Not only that, but this game has multiple attack types, blocking, and even parry mechanics. While it's quite advanced and allows for a variety of playstyles, it's also really clunky, which is relevant because shortly after, we're forced to confront General Grievous.
What is going on? What the fuck? This is... Where's my camera going? What the fuck? I can't see shit.
Between the weird camera and the janky melee combat, this is by far the most annoying part of this entire campaign. On the bright side, Mace Windu keeps Grievous occupied most of the time, but running around trying to deal with 2 Magna Guards while my screen keeps clipping through the wall is just really unfun. To make matters worse, an entire army of droids rushes through the door near the end of the encounter while I'm damn near defenseless. It only took a few attempts before I beat it, but to say I didn't enjoy a second of it is an understatement. In the end, Grievous escapes and the mission is over. The next mission brings us to Cato... Nemodia? Nemodia?
The planet Cato Nemodia.
We begin with our ship being boarded, and after defending against the assault, we use our orbital cannon to provide ground support. I'm starting to see a pattern here. We destroy the turrets, then fly to the surface where I forget how to land before successfully landing. We're given a sniper to provide range support and take out waves of droids with some of the most insane bullet magnetization I've ever seen in a shooter. But with how stiff the controls are in this game, it honestly feels really fun. As we continue on, we destroy the ion cannon console to protect our ship, then storm the palace to find the droid control station. After finding and destroying the controls, the droid army is shut down for good, and the war is won. Except, there's one last thing that must be done.
Like all Jedi, Master Herode is a traitor to the Republic. Execute Order 66. Find him and eliminate him.
We enter Jedi Master Feroda's chamber, and in cold blood, we assassinate him. The Republic is in the midst of falling and becoming the Empire, and filled with the utmost regret for his actions, our character X2 joins the rebellion, while his brother continues to serve the Empire. We find ourselves on Dantooine fighting for the rebels alongside our sperm donor. Palpatine's clone army is assaulting the planet to carry out their mission of eliminating every last Jedi, and we defend against waves of clones before pushing to the front lines to lay down some mines. Once the landing pad is secure, we return to man the turrets and shoot down transport ships. Our Jedi Father leads the charge to escort rebel troops to the nearby hangar. The enemy's capital ship blasts the mountain that the hangar resides in, causing Rebel to collapse all around it. We blast some rocks out of the way to allow our troops to enter the hangar, but as we attempt to open the hangar door, we discover that it's stuck due to rubble that collapsed outside of it. So, we're given some detonation packs and fight our way back outside to destroy the blockage. On the way back, we're asked to take a quick detour and use the ion cannon to take down the enemy ship's shield. Our mission seems pretty time sensitive, but I guess we just needed to give the Empire a big fuck you real quick. We return to the hangar and close off the cave behind us, but as we open the hangar door and attempt to escape with our troops, a fleet of enemy transports blocks us in, carrying none other than our brother. I'm sorry. I know he just shot us, but how am I supposed to take that seriously? That was the zestiest shooting pose I have ever seen. Holy shit, I love that so much. Our father faces off against our brother in an intense duel that looks really silly due to the PSP's limitations, resulting in the character models having blank stares. This cutscene is kind of cheesy, but one fun thing about it is that it is a story beat taken directly from the originally scrapped game. In fact, in some of the leaked pre-release footage, we can see this exact same cutscene taking place. Similar to the ground-to-space battles, this is yet another reminder of how this game wasn't just inspired by the work that was done on Battlefront 3, this game is Battlefront 3. The duel ends with our dad having the advantage, but being the nerd he is, he shows our brother mercy. Our brother, being the freak he is, uses this moment to disarm our dad, and does the opposite of showing him mercy, which is striking us down and shooting our dad dead. He evacuates the planet with his troops, fulfilling his mission. The Empire has seized control of the galaxy, and despite being left for dead, we miraculously survive. Now we're fighting alongside the more established Rebel Alliance, and have volunteered to partake in an intel gathering mission to learn more about the Death Star. We start off by approaching the Death Star with a fleet of X-Wings, taking out enemy TIE fighters as we advance. We board the Star Destroyer and use their orbital cannon to blow up some turrets on the Death Star, which clears a path for us and allows us to dock on it. After landing on the Death Star, we're greeted by an army of stormtroopers that we have to fight through to make it to the command center. Once we arrive, we watch an incoming hologram communication from our brother, X2. It turns out he's still alive and is now a high-ranking member of the Empire. There's no time to dwell on this as we're told to advance to the laser control room. After clearing the room containing snowtroopers, because, I don't know, I guess it's really cold aboard the Death Star, we activate the Death Star's laser controls and blow up the Star Destroyer parked outside. We continue fighting our way through, making it to a set of prison cells where we free some rebel prisoners to help fight. They assist us in blasting our way through the Death Star as we arrive at the tractor beam control room where we need to shut the beam off to be able to escape. So, we disable it and dash to the hangar where we hijack some transport ships and successfully make it out. I'll be honest, I'm not really sure what information we secured about the Death Star. We sort of just learned that our brother is alive and freed some prisoners, but I guess whatever we did was important because Luke Skywalker successfully destroyed the Death Star after this. Anyways, we're on Yavin 4, where the Empire is gearing up for a counterattack against the Rebels' main base of operations. We're tasked with evacuating as many troops as we can before the Empire overpowers them, so we make our way to the temple. When we get there, we find the Rebels pinned down and we have to activate the evacuation signal for them. Immediately after it turns on, the comms tower is bombed and the signal is lost. Of course, our sorry ass is responsible for heading out to fix it, so we jump in a tank and roll over to the comms tower, making sure to completely obliterate every stormtrooper on the way. We jump up to the bridge and repair the destroyed tower, then hop onto an anti-air cannon to prevent the bombers from destroying it again. Afterwards, we roll back to the temple and blast off in an X-Wing to take out the Star Destroyer floating above us. We blow up a few TIE fighters before boarding the ship, and well, there really isn't anything special about this part. By this point in the game, I was beginning to notice a very repetitive and boring pattern when it came to the campaign missions. Pretty much every single mission has some combination of do something on the ground, do something in a starfighter, do something on a capital ship. This time, we're supposed to destroy the ship. Again. Like we've done 2 times before. I guess the main draw of the task this time around is we're introduced to some new character who I just really do not care about whatsoever. The writing and voice acting is really not the best, and the stiff animations and lack of facial expressions aren't doing the story any favors either. We fight through the ship until we make it to the reactor, blowing it up and evacuating the ship before it collapses to finish off the mission. The next mission sees us on Hoth, where the Rebel Alliance has set up a new base of operations. The Empire has found the location of this base and initiated a full-scale assault, and we have to evacuate the base just like the last mission. We destroy some incoming transport ships up in space before flying down to the surface. I forget how to land again, but once I do land successfully, we're asked to escort an R2 droid through the halls of the base so it can repair the ion cannon control panel. We shoot our way through the base and defend the R2 unit while it performs the repairs. Once the control panel has been fixed, we use it to take down the Star Destroyer shields and yeah, you know the drill. Eventually we end up aboard the ship once again, making our way to the orbital strike cannon to disable it. However, this time something is different. As we sabotage the cannon, our brother emerges and uses his newfound force powers to shock us off the control panel. A boss fight initiates, and we're thrown into an intense showdown against X1. We run around in circles, trading blaster shots until one of us is dead. Just as his health bar nears the end, we're interrupted by the ship blowing up, and we both run to the hangar to escape the ship alive. I don't know how much time has passed, but somehow we're at the doorstep of the second Death Star above the forest moon of Endor. We fly around and destroy some TIE fighters before landing on our own ship and defending it from an enemy boarding party. Once the ship is secured, we head to the back to take an escape pod down to the surface of Endor. Here, we have to rescue some imprisoned Ewoks, so we fight off waves of enemies and 1v1 and ATST to make it to the cages where they're being held. We shoot the cages to free them, and after freeing all the Ewoks, we witness an X-Wing get shot out of the sky and crash land nearby. Upon investigating the crash site, we come across that guy that I don't care about from 2 missions ago. He helps us push into a bunker where we blow a generator, shutting down the Empire's communication. To repay the favor, we 1v1 a few more ATSTs and make our way to the next bunker, which houses the ion cannon. Our troops in space successfully destroyed the Death Star, and we hop on the ion cannon to take out the shields of the remaining Star Destroyers, so our rebel ships can take them down too. With that complete, the last order of business is to defend ourselves, which involves destroying an onslaught of walkers advancing on us. We blow up the first one, then turn around to blow up the second one, and just like that, we won. The war is over, and the rebellion has defeated the Empire for good. Or have they? Before we begin Act 3, I just want to talk about my experience so far. I know that the story isn't typically the focus of Battlefront games, but man, does this story drag on. The gameplay has been repetitive to the point where not only is gameplay repeating itself, but so are story beats. Pretty much every mission feels the same, and nothing feels like it has any payoff. Some missions do advance the main brother versus brother storyline, but others just feel thrown into the game to pad out the campaign and introduce fan service. Honestly, it's just boring and uninteresting, so going into the final act, I really don't feel like there is much to look forward to. We're at Bespin, where some remnants of the fallen Empire still seem to be at war. After blowing up a refueling pad, we land in Cloud City and... Alright, I take back every complaint I just made. We have a lightsaber now. Oh man, Dave Filoni would be absolutely pissing himself right now. Lando Calrissian is here, and we fight side by side with him, slicing our way through Cloud City to help free Lobot. I discover that Jedi in this game feel really squishy as I get absolutely dumpstered on by a courtyard full of enemies. After tempering my expectations and taking my time, we make it through and wind up in a dungeon where Lobot is being held in a prison cell somewhere. Upon freeing him, he gives us what we can only assume is a blank stare of gratitude, and we now have to protect him as he hacks a bunch of computers. Hacking the last computer allows Lando to regain control over Cloud City, and we proceed to regroup with him and fight off the last of the attackers. We cut down a wave of enemies at the first landing pad, and run to the other side of the city where another set of troopers are being dropped off. This introduces us to a new threat to face off against. The Phase 3 Dark Troopers are massive, tanky soldiers that look incredibly badass in this game. They can take us down pretty quickly if we let them swarm us, so we deal with them one by one until Bespin has been liberated and the mission comes to an end. With the Empire mostly eradicated, there's still one loose end to take care of. Apparently, our brother X1 has become a Sith Lord, and we have intel that his journey down the path of darkness has led him to... Look, I am a Star Wars nerd, but in fear that I butcher the pronunciation so badly that I end up saying some slur I didn't even know existed, I'm just not even going to bother. We begin flying above the planet, destroying security satellites so we can breach the planet's atmosphere undetected. We then have to board the capital ship to gain some more intel about the surface of the planet. Okay, we know the drill, and even though we have a lightsaber now, this ship section still isn't any different, so let's just skip to the part where we aren't falling asleep doing the same thing for the 8th time. And here we are, flying around above Darth Vader's castle that we are trying to infiltrate. We shoot down the fighters that are protecting it before touching down on the landing platform. As we enter the castle, we're told that the intel we gathered on the ship tells us that our father's lightsaber resides in Vader's trophy room. So we grab it and continue searching for the holocron that is supposed to lead us to our brother. We make it to the next room and are ambushed by another new enemy type. Darth Vader's droid bodyguards emerge from their slumber and swarm us, and while they're pretty tanky, they're not much of a match against our lightsaber. After destroying them all, we have to fight a few more in the next room where we just spawn kill them by abusing the lightsaber throw attack, and Once that's done, we finally find the holocron. We grab it and are immediately ambushed, so we fight our way through the ambush until we emerge outside where we hop into a ship and escape. The holocron's data leads us to Mustafar, where X1 is stationed. He's kidnapped Luke Skywalker and plans to clone an army of Dark Jedi using his DNA. I'm not sure why he couldn't just use his own DNA, maybe he's a little stupid, but anyways, it's time to exterminate the final flame of the Empire. We start by boarding another goddamn ship, but once we make it to the reactor and destroy it, X1 appears and we face off against him once again. This time, he is a full-blown Sith, but we also wield the power of a Jedi. We trade blows, and even though he plays unfair by calling in reinforcements, we're just better. As his health gets low, he flees and we chase after him. We take off in the X-Wing we boarded the ship with, and now engage in a dogfight showdown against X1. He again cheats by calling in more reinforcements, but we deal with the enemy fighters and do a number on X1's ship before he escapes to the surface of Mustafar. We continue chasing him down, and once we land on the surface, we rendezvous with some troops stationed in the remains of the Star Destroyer we just took down. They help us fight our way to the ion cannon control room, which we have to clear out and take control of to allow our allied ships to approach the planet. Once the room is secured, we follow X1's trail into a cloning facility. He approaches us, and we initiate the next phase of our duel. This is one of the few times in this entire game where we actually need to utilize the melee combat mechanics, as spamming attacks will just result in us getting endlessly parried, and X1 does a lot of damage. Using our force abilities is also vital to winning the battle, as the force push stuns X1 and allows us to get a few hits in uncontested. As his health diminishes, waves of Wookiee clones enter the room to assist X1, and we also have to make sure to prioritize them so we aren't getting shot in the back. When enough damage is done, X1 runs away yet again because of course he does, leaving us with a few more waves of Wookiee clones to deal with. We hunt him down, arriving back at the ion cannon control room to start the next phase of the fight. This phase is much easier as the room is big, empty, and easy to navigate, and the only additional enemies we have to fight are a few Royal Guard. We repeat the process of pushing him down to stun him and getting some damage in until he's weak, where he books it again. At this point, I'm wondering if this guy is just trying to get his daily steps in. We follow him for the fourth time, but this time he has nowhere left to run. After all of this running, all the half-baked boss fights, and 3 full acts of buildup, this is it. It's just me and him, 1v1. We go full-blown Duel of Fates on his ass, slashing X1 to bits. We clobber him again and again, and once we deal that final blow, it's finally over.
You have won.
I won't kill you, brother.
Then die!
So the story is over, and what do I think about it? Well, I can't say it was good, but at least it exists. It's no secret that I'm not the biggest fan of this story. The premise may be somewhat interesting, but the writing is pretty bad and the pacing is all over the place. The missions play like what you'd expect from a Battlefront game, although the lack of objectives where you need to capture a command post is interesting to say the least. I mean, seriously, that's a core Battlefront mechanic, and we don't do it a single time throughout the entire story. Plus, how many times do I need to complain about the monotonous mission structure? If this game is the vision of what Battlefront 3 was supposed to be, I see it. But if it's a one-for-one replica, then it just misses the mark completely. Ultimately though, I feel like the story feels rushed, and a lot of aspects feel like they're being held back due to having to work on a handheld console. However, the one silver lining about the campaign is that it plays directly into this game's progression system. This game actually has a pretty solid customization system, and I kinda love it. You can create characters for each of the 4 factions, choosing between different bodies, heads, color palettes, emblems. A lot of these are earned after each mission of the campaign, but some of them require you to earn medals, which are basically this game's version of achievements. I didn't mention it during the campaign playthrough, but this game even has loadout customization. It ditches Battlefront's original class system in favor of custom loadouts where you can mix and match perks, gadgets, and weapons. Again, most of these are earned by completing the campaign and... Wait, why is most of this stuff still locked? Motherfuck. It turns out to unlock everything the campaign has to offer, we have to beat it on the hardest difficulty, which I didn't do. While I dread the idea of having to replay the campaign, I decided to grit my teeth and do it anyway. I mean, I already did it once. How much worse could it be? In all sincerity, I did play through the rest of the hard mode campaign, and this fight was actually not that bad. I think I lucked out by doing enough damage to completely skip the final wave of enemies, but there were sections that gave me much more trouble. In particular, the starfighter dogfight sections were especially unforgiving, although I'm sure I could have made some of them easier by making sure I had the pilot loadout equipped first for the vehicle health regen. Hard mode is different in a lot of ways, as things kill you fast, so you definitely have to play a lot slower. However, it also made me realize that there are a lot of things that we can completely run past, but when that isn't an option, the combat becomes much more methodical. The few boss fights the story offers are also much more challenging, especially the final boss. It was actually kind of fun. It really felt like a respectable lightsaber duel. Overall, I still think the campaign was pretty underwhelming, even if the gameplay was a bit less mindless on the highest difficulty. On the bright side, I now have an array of weaponry to play around with in what many would consider the main draw of the classic Battlefront games: the multiplayer. Okay, I mean, did anyone really expect the multiplayer of a 15-year-old PSP game to work? No, the real mode I want to talk about is Galactic Conquest. Oh man, Galactic Conquest. This is a beloved mode in the Battlefront series, so how well did it translate to handheld? Well, first, let's go over how the mode works. If you remember from the mainline games, you and one opponent take turns fighting for control over various planets. While the exact features differ between games, Battlefront 2 probably had the most recognizable iteration. You have an overview of the entire galaxy map, and you take turns moving capital ships around the map to fight for control over planets. The more planets you control, the more credits you earn, and these credits can be used to unlock more powerful classes and purchase boosters to give you an upper hand. Additionally, if you moved your ship to the same space as an enemy ship, you would engage in a space battle to destroy the enemy's capital ship, resetting it to the beginning. This game takes a similar approach, but makes some pretty interesting changes. The core gameplay loop stays the same. We take turns moving around a map, fighting over planets, and more planets means more credits for us to buy stuff with. Where this version differs is instead of simply moving a capital ship around the map, we now move individual reinforcements between the planets, with the win condition being to take over the enemy faction's home planet. Credits are still earned the same way, and you can still use them to buy boosters, but now you can also use them to buy more troops to reinforce your planets, and there's even upgrades you can acquire, such as damage reduction and more loadout points, to make your army more powerful. Basically, where Battlefront 2's implementation of Galactic Conquest is kind of like one big game of checkers, this game turns it into a game of Risk. So, the core mechanics are pretty interesting and translate well to the handheld format, but how do the actual battles play out? Well... They're fucking incredible. Out of every aspect of this game, this is where the remnants of Battlefront 3 really shine through. Every single mechanic that we encountered in the campaign comes together to create these immense battles that span out across ground, air, and space. Space battles are now a part of every single conflict, giving you the option to decide whether you want to fight on the ground or take down the enemy's ship. You can also seamlessly transfer between all the different planes of battle, with everything happening simultaneously. While you're on the ground, your allies are actively damaging the ship. While you're in space, troops on the ground fight over command posts. Just like in the campaign, you can even provide assistance across planes of battle, such as shooting the ion cannon from the ground to the enemy ship to help take down its shield. Instead of having a reinforcement count or tickets, the score tracker counts up, with different actions contributing different amounts. Of course, actions like destroying the capital ship or capturing the majority of command posts give the most, so it's important to provide support wherever it's needed the most. This is everything that we were promised. A fully connected, multi-layered battle system that actually worked. Except it's here, on a PSP, a handheld console weaker than the PlayStation 2. These battles are awesome. Hell, probably the best out of any Battlefront game to date. And this implementation of Galactic Conquest is really fun. If you try out this game for any reason, it should be this mode. This mode truly carries the legacy of what was going to be Battlefront 3. I won't lie, we were off to a rocky start with that campaign. Sure, the concept was interesting, but the writing, acting, and animations were all so bad that I just didn't care. To make matters worse, the monotonous mission structure just made for an entirely unenjoyable experience. But in my opinion, that's not where the core of this game is. It's none other than a mere afterthought shoehorned in to add some additional content. Once we got to experience Galactic Conquest, everything changed and my entire perspective shifted. This is where the core Battlefront 3 experience lies. This is Battlefront 3. Elite Squadron was the last classic Battlefront game ever created. Of course, we got the EA DICE revival and subsequent death of the series in the mid to late 2010s, and while these are great games on their own, they fail to capture the vision of the original series. While it's a shame this revival abandoned a lot of the core identity of the originals and didn't build on the formula that people fell in love with, at least we have some solace knowing that Battlefront 3's legacy lives on in Elite Squadron. Maybe not all hope is lost though. There's been a bit of a resurgence in player numbers for EA's Battlefront 2, and while EA and DICE have long since moved on from the series, maybe this second wave will convince them otherwise. Some devs who worked on EA's Battlefront 2 even came out and publicly said they would love to work on a sequel. While the odds of that happening currently appear pretty small, if it does happen, maybe, just maybe, we'll get to see the original Battlefront 3's vision reimagined in the modern day. Well hey, we may not have Battlefront 3, but at least we still have our funny Star Wars junk. Trust me, this is even cooler the second time. Just look.